Good evening, everybody, and happy Easter to all of you celebrating. I'm Nate Eaton in Boise, Idaho, getting ready for opening statements tomorrow in the Lori Vallow Daybell case. Hope you had a good weekend. We made it through jury selection last week, and tomorrow is when the trial really kicks off. And we're going to go through a bunch of stuff tonight. Here we are. The trial begins tomorrow, April 10th. Tonight, we're going to talk about what happened on Friday when those jurors were picked. Who is on the jury? That's the question. What can we expect tomorrow? And we have a one-on-one with Larry Woodcock. We talk about what he's doing today to prepare as the trial kicks off tomorrow and how he has been handling the intense pressure, really, over the past 3+ years. We're also going to remember Tammy, Tylee, JJ, and Charles, and we want to take your questions. So wherever you're watching from, please, if you have any questions about the case, there's a lot we're going to try to get through tonight. Leave them in the comments below, and if you could share where you're watching from, because I love to see where everybody is at and check in with you and see just how far-reaching this is. So wherever you're at, please leave a comment below and go ahead and like this. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, and we'll try to get to everything that we can. All right, we're going to jump right in. Who is on the jury? Well, this is what happened Friday. Let me back up. So on Thursday afternoon, we got to that number of, the judge needed 42 so that then each side could strike 12 and get it down to 18. And then you have 12 jurors and 6 alternates. But Judge Boyce wanted to get a few more just in case there were any issues. For instance, a juror shows up Friday and says, oh, I'm sick, or I have a child that had a major issue. There would be some leeway, because he'd hate to have people show up on Friday and you have 41 or 40 and you're like, oh, great, we got to go back to the pool and get 2 more. So what happened was Judge Boyce came in the courtroom and he read the numbers of 3 jurors, and he said, you 3 are welcome to go. You're welcome to leave. Goodbye. And then there was 42, and Lori was sitting at a table between her 2 attorneys, and then at another table was the prosecution. And for about 30 minutes, maybe, the prosecution wrote down a juror number. The defense wrote down juror numbers, and they were writing down the numbers of those who they wanted to strike, those who they wanted off the jury. Lori was very involved with her attorneys, looking at the list, whispering to them, talking to them. The prosecution, of course, was involved. And then all of those papers were handed up to the judge, and he said, okay, the following jurors are free to go, read their numbers, and sent them home. And then the remaining 18, that is the jury for this case. Here's who they are. 18 jurors, including 6 alternates, so you have 12 total on the actual jury. 10 men and 8 women. We don't know their ages. We don't know their race until tomorrow. We'll be able to get a look at them. All we know right now is their numbers. But we do know that there is 10 men and there are 8 women. They're all Ada County residents in the Boise area. They all know very little about the case. I don't believe one of them saw the Netflix special. None of them saw multiple Datelines. They said that they really have not been following the case. Some of them may have heard about it, like, oh, a woman and dead children in Hawaii, but they don't know the specifics. They cannot talk about the case with anyone at any time during the 8-week trial or 6-week trial, however long it's going to be. That the judge really stressed that. He said, if someone comes up to you and says, hey, have you heard about this big trial? You say, I am serving on the jury and I cannot talk about it, and walk away. And if they insist on talking to you about it, then you contact the court. It is a serious matter. All of those jurors will be sworn in on Monday. So I want to give you a true story. Years ago, one of our reporters at East Idaho News was covering a trial, a much smaller magnitude than this. It was a 4 or 5 day trial, and there was a break one day. And he was a young reporter. I'm not blaming him at all. But during the break, he went up and he casually asked, and this was out in the hallway. This wasn't in the courtroom. He casually said to one of the jurors, how are you? How are things going? Small talk, real casually. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. The break was over. They went back in the courtroom, and The defense attorney immediately stood up and said, "Judge, I wish to declare a mistrial because a reporter has spoken to one of the jurors." Big deal. It is a big deal. So the judge called a reporter in the chambers with the prosecution and the defense, asked exactly what happened, what was said. The juror was called in. It was a big deal, and it ended up that the judge did not declare a mistrial. Our reporter apologized, and we at East Idaho News wrote about it. We explained what happened during the situation. So it's a serious matter. Could you imagine had that trial ended with a mistrial because our reporter went up and spoke with someone? And Boyce really stressed that to these jurors, that so much time and effort and money has been put into this trial, moving it over to Boise. The charges are serious. So much has gone into this that he said, we really can't afford to have redo this. So please don't talk about it with anyone. So they will be sworn in tomorrow morning. Here's what we can expect. Trial starts at 8:30 tomorrow 8:30 tomorrow morning. The jury will be sworn in. They'll be given instructions by the judge. Then there will be opening statements. The prosecution will give opening statements. The defense can give opening statements, or the defense can wait. I don't believe the opening statements will take all day. I've been told it might be around an hour for the prosecution. It could be less. Which one of the prosecutors will give them? We can't say. We'll see tomorrow. But they're going to basically tell the jurors, this is what you can expect. This is why we are here. And then the first witnesses will be called. You can expect, likely, this week, some family members to be called. Law enforcement officers are on the witness list. And these witnesses will be called. The evidence will be presented. We were told on Friday that the evidence that is seen in the courtroom, the actual courtroom, the evidence that is shown to the jury, the autopsy photos, which the prosecution mentioned, the other graphic evidence, the emotionally charged evidence is what Rob Wood called it, the prosecutor, that will be broadcasted to the overflow rooms in Madison and in the Ada County Courthouse. That's what we have been told. In some cases, it is just shown to the jury. I believe in the Murdoch trial, so one of the other reporters was telling me, the public did not see the evidence. It was just shown to the jury. And if you remember Chad Daybell's preliminary hearing back in August of 2020, they showed some of the evidence to people in the courtroom, but we weren't allowed in because it was COVID. No one was allowed in, so it was a live broadcast. We didn't see it, but we are told that will be shown in the overflow rooms, and that it is emotionally charged, and we could see it as early as tomorrow. We also know that because of the jury questioning that the prosecution gave, that there will be probably one of the victims, one of the deaths, that we don't know how that person died. And I would imagine that would be Tylee. And so that will come up. So then trial starts at 8:30. There'll likely be a lunch break, probably 30 minutes, given that Judge Boyce wants to keep this moving. And then at the end of the day, proceedings will end at 3:30. And then the jurors will be dismissed. Now, it could be that that there are, business items to take care of after the fact, after the jury is dismissed to go home. There could be some administrative stuff that happens. But I expect that court should be out, by 4 o'clock every day. So they're going to be shorter days, but I think they're going to try to pack in as many things as they can into those days. So if you're just tuning in, a little preview of what we can expect tomorrow. Of course, we will be live. I'll be live here tomorrow night at 7:30 to break it all down. Hopefully, we will have the audio clips from opening statements tomorrow to play for you. I want to post that whole thing. That opening statement has to be powerful, has to hit it out of the park with the jurors, and then we're going to get right to witness testimony and let you know what those witnesses are saying in the courtroom, because now we are seeing the evidence. We're going to get to see Lori, how she reacts to some of this stuff. I do have a seat in the courtroom. I've been told it seats, I think, around 60 people, and it's full. Those tickets were gone in 2 minutes. You go online and you reserve a seat, and you do it at 8 o'clock in the morning. And so I was on right at 8 o'clock on Friday. I got that seat. I'm going to try to be in that main courtroom every single day just to bring you the news. I'll be live tweeting, and I'll be live posting on eastidahonews.com every 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whenever there's news, I'm going to post it. So if you're at work, sneak away and like have a window up on your screen so you can watch, or if you're at school. And then, of course, we'll recap all for you tomorrow night. All right. I want to talk with Larry Woodcock. Larry Woodcock in the news last week when they anxiously awaited the news on if Larry and Kay can be in the courtroom. And they found out that Kay could, because the issue was is she a victim, a family member, immediate family member victim, because she's also a witness. The judge said yes, she could represent JJ. Summer Shiflett could represent Tylee. That's Lori's sister, Tylee's aunt. And then Colby Ryan can be in there because he's the immediate brother of JJ and Tylee. Those were the three victims that / witnesses that the court was concerned about, and the court ruled on that, but did not rule on Larry Woodcock, or said basically they did rule on Larry Woodcock. They said Larry Woodcock can't come in, Judge Boyce did, if he remains on the witness list, or they could have him testify first. Well, Larry is going to be in the courtroom tomorrow, and he plans to be there every day. So you can, make sense of that what you may. But I did have a chance to speak with him, and I want to play that interview for you now. And you can hear what Larry says here just hours before the Lori Vallow Daybell trial starts. We are here with Larry Woodcock. Larry, the trial starts tomorrow. What are your thoughts?
In all respects, honestly, I'm very relaxed. I'm very peaceful. We are absolutely ready to attend this trial, to be part of this trial. We have waited 4 years, as you know, and to say it's been an easy wait for us is a total understatement. We have gone through a tremendous amount of agony. We have cried. We have had a few moments of joy. We've had sad moments of joy in a sense. We're joyful that we found the children. Extremely disappointed in finding them deceased. And but overall, I feel like that we are prepared for this. And I think that I have prayed heavily for the wisdom of the court to come through, to be a fair and honest trial for all involved. I don't know how much more you can get prepared.
Well, I know that the big concern last week, actually for probably 2 weeks now, up until the ruling came down on last Thursday, was whether you and Kay would be able to sit in the trial when other witnesses are on the stand, because you're both on the witness list, as of now at least. So what was the reaction when you learned Kay can be in there, but you you can't?
I felt all along that Kay and I would be in there. I just did not accept the fact that we would not be allowed to be in that trial. I'd never accepted that fact. And so I'm thankful that the judge made a proper ruling in this, and that Kay and I can be in there, can be the face of JJ. Obviously, Tylee now has a representative in court, and thankful for that. And our family is going to also be able to, I think, be in the court also. I know that my brother-in-law and sister-in-law are coming in, Jerry and Melanie, and I know that Kay's sister is coming in, and hopefully our granddaughter will come in time to be in court. So I'm confident. I feel that everything has worked out. and that it's going to be an exhaustive court. I don't think there will be any doubt about that. I know we're going to see evidence that we can't unsee, but we've already seen hard evidence in Chad's trial that I still can't unsee, but it'll be the same evidence.
Yeah. How do you prepare for that? How do you prepare for the whole trial?
In my case, with my work background, I've seen enough tragedy, death, that I'm prepared. I mean, it's the way I deal with it is I can see it, and it really doesn't bother me that much. But when I walk away from it, I have to put it in one of my post office boxes in my head. And you have to leave it there.
That's a good way to describe it. File it there and leave it in the post office box.
You really do. I have all these little post office boxes in my head.
Yeah.
And I open them up and I let that go in there. And it works for me.
Yeah. Anything you want to say to the people that have been following this story from the beginning, that have been waiting for this trial, that have been so concerned for you and Kay and all your family?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone. Without the media supporting us, Nate has been phenomenal. You have been a huge support for us. You always give us the truth. You don't candy coat it. You tell us what it is. And it makes it so much easier for Kay and I to deal with the reality of this. The support we have from the people regionally, throughout the state, throughout the country, and that follow us worldwide. We never sought this public. We never asked for it. All we wanted to do, the only thing I ever asked from the first day, were the children, were the children, were the children. That's all I ever asked for. And this took off, and the outpouring of support that we have got is mind-boggling. It really is. We're nothing special. We love our children. We love our grandchildren, and we love our great-grandchildren. And I just can't imagine that any parent, grandparent, great-grandparent would not respond in the same way that Kay and I have responded to. And so we are eternally blessed with the prayers and the kind words and the way people have been so gracious, and more than anything, so protective of us. I've never seen this. Mm-hmm. I mean, this opened up a whole new world. You know, we listen to the news sometime and we think that everything is bad and everything's going to hell in a handbasket. And I look at the text in social media. We were invited to do a little podcast by our daughter last night. We don't get on that very often. It's just not who we are. But when I do, I have fun, because I don't go. I'm not going on there and and it's not about a ruling from the judge or a ruling from the court. It's that's business.
Yeah.
I've been in court enough. I mean, when I've been in business over 45 years, and if you think you won't get sued, you will. And so I've been in court, and I'll walk up to any defense attorney or a prosecuting attorney, and I'll shake their hands and, hey, good luck. You got business to do. We're here. But the support that we've got has been it's mind-blowing to us.
Well, I know that support's going to continue for the next 8 weeks. So thank you, Larry. Nice chatting with you.
And it is.
All right. There we go. Larry's one of those guys. He is just like how you see on camera and off. In fact, every time I see him, he gives me a big hug, pulls me in for a hug, and asks how the family's doing and asks how my daughter is doing. They're just a great, great couple there. And of course, Larry said, if you missed it, he's going to be in that courtroom every day starting tomorrow. And he wants people to know how much they appreciate the love and support from everybody. And they're glad that this is finally happening and that they will be ready to go. And Kay will be ready to testify when it's her turn to take the stand, and I imagine that they'll talk about, that call that they had to report JJ missing back in the day. All right, there's lots of questions coming in. I want to get to those questions. Again, if you have any, feel free to post them in the comments. But before we do that, every day I want to remember the victims in this case, and today I have a great story to tell about Tammy. This is Tammy Daybell with her mom and Samantha, her sister there in front, and some other family members at Disneyland. We talked about a few days ago how they loved going to Disneyland. Somebody who knew Tammy, not a family member, sent me this. Tammy was a very caring person. Even if she just met you, she would help. My wife and I were getting married soon, and we were at a wedding reception for one of her kids. Without us even asking, she just started giving us all this leftover stuff for us to use to help with our reception. This was the first time we had ever met her. This was just one example of the many ways she would help people out. She was a very kind and generous person and is missed greatly by many. And so today we remember Tammy Daybell, we remember JJ and Tylee, and we remember Charles. And if you knew any of these four and want to share a story with me or some photos with me or a memory you have with them, feel free to send me a message on my Facebook page or Instagram, however you can reach me, and I'll check those. There's how you can reach me and get in touch with me on my Instagram, my reporter page, and then my Twitter account. You could do that. So tonight we remember them. All right, let's get to your questions. A lot of them, as I said, are coming in. I'll answer as many as I can. Here we go. Lisa asks, do you feel like everyone involved feels safe? With this cult-like following Chad has, it seems like it would be a real concern. I think everybody feels safe at this point, but I can tell you that early on in the case, Lisa, before Chad and Lori were arrested, before we knew of Alex's involvement, there were days I felt a little nervous. In fact, we hired security. I don't know if I've said this publicly before. We hired security at our building, extra security, and the police department patrolled around my house for about a week. We had a weird situation one night. I won't get into it. The night Lori Vallow was arrested, we had a weird situation at our newsroom. We were all working late because she had been arrested. And some weird things just happened outside, and then somebody showed up. And so we just were it was a little weird. But I think once both of them were arrested and behind bars, the fear of not feeling safe went away. And as far as I'm concerned, I feel safe. I think most people feel safe, but I can't speak for everybody. But good question. Babette, has Chad's IQ ever been tested? The reason I ask is in other cases where someone's accused of murder, the IQ number comes up. That is a great question. You guys you have all these great questions. I don't know if his IQ has been tested. Sorry, I just bumped the camera there. I don't know if his IQ has been tested. We do know that Lori's probably has, because she was declared incompetent twice in this case. In fact, she spent 8 or 9 months at the state hospital in in Orofino, Idaho, northern Idaho, while multiple experts try to evaluate her. But I don't know if Chad has been there. There has been no mention of competency with Chad, no mention of mental illness with Chad, no mention of anything with Chad. I know there's been some when he walks in the courtroom, they say that he appears to maybe have autism or Asperger's. I have no clue of that, or at least a hint of that. So I don't know about his IQ being tested, but that would be interesting. Shauna, is Lori in general population or solitary confinement? The jail won't say for security reasons, but in Madison County, she was in solitary, or she was off by herself, at least for most of the time, from what we understand. I did speak with a woman who's shared what it is there's like cells that are part of a pod, and you can leave your cell and go out into the pod. And Lori was in a pod, at least in the beginning, by herself, but then they had to move somebody into the cell next to her, so they shared a pod. And I spoke with her. We have that story on East Idaho News, but I believe at this point she probably would be off by herself in the jail. She gets on a bus every day and rides the bus over to the courthouse, where they bring her in along with all of the other inmates who have to have court on that particular day. The ride's about 10 minutes. And then at the end of the day, she gets back on the bus and goes back. I imagine she changes clothes at the courthouse. She might do it at jail. I'll try to find out. I'll try to find out and report back to you tomorrow. Patricia, will Chad's grown children ever be attending court? If so, in what capacity? Well, they're, as far as we know, they're not on the witness list. They could be. I shouldn't say that. They could be on the witness list. We don't know if they're attending just to attend as observers. I do know that at one point Jim Archibald mentioned, Lori's attorney, that he did not anticipate any of Chad's children coming to Lori's trial. John Pryor had also mentioned that previously in court hearings when he was trying to get cameras to remain in the courtroom, saying that Chad's children could not afford to take several weeks off to come and watch the trial. If they came, in what capacity? They could come as witnesses, or they could come as members of the public. I guess they could come with Lori being their stepmom. I don't know how that would play out as far as family relations. But as far as we know, they have no plans to come back on. Okay, here we go. Why no cuffs on Lori? My wife just texted, by the way, and said, turn your cameras back on. I thought I was on. I'm sorry. Still getting used to this. I'm doing this all. You should see my little control panel here in the hotel room. Please forgive me. Why no cuffs on Lori? Well, I'll tell you that in a lot of high-profile cases, actually in a lot of cases, the defendant's attorneys want their client to look as normal as possible. If someone walks in outfit, gel uniform, jumpsuit, with handcuffs and shackles and messy hair, and, the jury might have a preconceived notion in their head. If you look at someone in a jail outfit, are you going to judge them differently than someone in a normal, nice-looking outfit? O.J. Simpson wore a suit every day. Murdoch wore a suit every day. Think of all the high-profile cases you can, and in most cases, they are in normal clothes. And that's the right of, at least the judge granted that right to Lori's legal team to say, yeah, she can wear normal clothes. And no handcuffs and no shackles. Tomorrow I will get a better look at her, and I'll report back to see how she is. Last week we were watching the hearing on a screen, and there was multiple cameras up, so it was about the size of this. Imagine watching that. That's what we saw. So tomorrow I'll let you know what she's wearing and how she's doing. Do you know if there are parents on the jury? Good question, Linda. Yes, there are parents. I don't know how many, but there are parents. Will Chad be called as a witness? I do not know, but that would be something. It's a conspiracy case, so he's a co-conspirator. So I don't know how that all plays out, but that would be something. I guess they could call him as a witness and have him testify. What, if anything, does Adam have to do with this? I know Charles spoke with him before he was murdered, but we hear nothing about him anymore. Was he maybe smart enough to stay away? That's from Kelly. Adam Cox is Lori's and Summers and Alex Cox's brother. He has spoken a few times. I don't know if he spoke in the Netflix docuseries. He's spoken publicly a few times. He did get together with Charles, and they were trying to plan a quote unquote intervention for Lori. They were worried that she was, her mental condition, that she wasn't all there. And he's remained pretty quiet. So, he is a DJ, a radio DJ. I believe he's still working in Southern Utah. And I know that, he wasn't involved in their religious group at all or anything like that. He kind of was living his life. So he, I don't think he was involved. Was he maybe smart enough to stay away? If you mean stay away from the religious group, yes. I don't know if he'll be called as a witness either. I think they filed a list, a year or two ago of 90 people who could potentially be witnesses. We have been told they're not going to release the witness list beforehand. That's why it's frustrating. I wish I could give you more answers. It's sealed. In a lot of cases, you'll get the witness list before the trial starts, or at least some sort of idea. We've been told we won't even know the day before who it's going to be on the stand. Now, we might hear rumblings, and I have heard rumblings of who's going to be on the stand tomorrow. I'm not going to go into that now because it was off the record information. So we might know that a few days before or the day before, but we don't have a list of who all is going to be there. I do know that people have been told to be on standby and that a bunch of subpoenas went out last week or the week before, 2 weeks ago. So people are on standby. So I wish I could tell you who's going to be on the stand. I guess it keeps the suspense, so you never know who's going to be called. Jeanette, I wanted to go back and watch Dateline on Peacock, and it was gone. Was it so the jury wouldn't watch? No, I don't know why Dateline took that off. Probably more of a space thing. They're not going to. We're going to report the news, and Dateline's going to report the news. And for full disclosure, I'm a Dateline contributor, so I'm reporting for Dateline on this story. And if what you can do is go back and listen to it in podcast form. They put all of them on podcasts, so you can find all of the Doomsday Mommy Doomsday shows, and you can find all of that. You might not be able to watch it, but you can listen to it. How soon will audio of the actual trial be released? Glenn, good question. We are hoping daily. We got the audio kind of late from jury selection, and that's because we got it like 2 or 3 days later than we're still waiting for Friday. That's because they had to go through and redact, pull out a bunch of stuff that shouldn't have been recorded. With the actual trial going, we're hoping that there will be less of that 6 hours of audio, maybe we get, if it ends at 3:30, we get it by 5 or 6, and then we have to turn it around and process it to get it ready for you all to hear. But as soon as we get it, we're going to get it out, and I want to play those clips for you. And we'll post them day by day. You can go to our YouTube channel and listen to last week's. It's a lot of repetition, a lot of the same questions over and over, but it does give you a clue as far as what the prosecution and the defense were looking for when it came to jurors. Laura asks, is it possible, legal, for a judge to write a book even after retirement about a case in his courtroom? A judge cannot comment on a case while he's on the bench. I don't know if he could when he retires. He probably could. Maybe judges have. I don't know if Judge Boyce would. It'd be interesting. I'd love to interview him one day about this. He's not going to do it, though, because, you can't really talk about your cases. So, no, you can't. Could Lori write a book? I suppose she could write a book, but you cannot profit off of crimes in the state of Idaho and in most states. If she's found not guilty, she could write a book. Can her attorneys write a book? Well, there's attorney-client privilege. So she would have to give up that attorney-client privilege and let them be open to sharing. So I don't know if they would write a book, but I'm not sure. Nate, would you consider writing a book about this someday? Would you all read a book? Would you read a book about this? I'm not sure. That's a good question. I've been asked about that a lot. And as of now, I don't have any plans to write a book, at least as of today. Maybe one day, I don't know. We'll see. My job is to report to you. My number one job is reporter, and that's what I want to keep doing. And maybe one day I could write a book, but good question. I hope you all would read it. Francis asks, how does the family seating work? I assume they've got reserved seating for them. Do they have a certain amount assigned to them? Yes, they do. So what they have done is, like Larry and Kay, the victims have assigned seats in there, and those will be taped off. They don't have to go on and reserve a seat every day. And then I think that they got a certain number of families, and I don't think it could extend like 10 or 20 people, but immediate families got in there, and then the rest can go on and reserve a seat. And as I mentioned, the courtroom is full, at least for tomorrow, but there was plenty of seats in the overflow room last week in both Ada and Madison counties. So even if you're not family, you can go on and reserve a seat if you want and get in there for some of it. Why was the death penalty actually taken off the table, Patty says. Patty, basically, to give you a synopsis, there was so much evidence in this case. Let me back up. Anybody that is tried for a death penalty case is assigned a mitigation specialist. That mitigation specialist, it is their job to do a deep dive, extensive, thorough investigation on the person. So let's say I'm tried for the death penalty. That person goes through every part of my life. Might go back and interview my first grade teacher. Their job is to spare me the death penalty. Their job is to put together a big investigative portfolio and say, Judge, this is why Nate Eaton should not die. Well, we know the evidence in this case is massive. There is so much evidence. And the prosecution a few weeks ago turned over some recordings, a lot of recordings, with Chad Daybell in the jail, phone calls. They turned over messages. They turned over a big data dump. And they said that they had just got it and that some of it was an oversight on their end. They thought that they had turned it over earlier, but because there's so much, things slipped through the cracks. And so what happened was the defense, Lori's team, said, we don't have enough time to go through all of this. And mainly our mitigation specialist does not have enough time to go through all of this stuff before the trial. And if Lori Vallow is sentenced to death, our mitigation specialist is not trained won't have enough time to basically defend her. And the mitigation specialist wrote affidavit filed it in court saying, I cannot tell the court that I have done my job on this. And so the defense said, please throw out the death penalty because we don't have enough time to do this. Judge Boyce weighed both sides and basically said, okay, he could have said, forget it. None of that evidence can be admitted. None of it. We're going to keep going. Or he could have said, I'm going to take the death penalty off the table. That way we don't have to worry about the mitigation specialist. And that's what he did. He took it off the table. So all of that stuff is gone. That immediately shortened the trial because there were witnesses. There's witnesses in the main portion, the case in chief is what they call it, the main portion of the trial. And then if she was found guilty, there would have been witnesses in the sentencing phase. The jury would have said, yes, guilty. And then the prosecution would have argued, and this is why she needs the death penalty. And there would have been witness after witness after witness. And the defense would have said no. And there would have been witness, and there would have been a mitigation specialist. And then the jury would have decided the sentence. Well, now that the death penalty is off the table, none of that sentencing phase happens. So that's why the death penalty was taken off the table. Jury selection could possibly still be going on too, if it was still on, because they really drill down on people's views on the death penalty. Okay. Alexis, Chad phoned the funeral home. Do you think that phone evidence will come into the trial? Very possible. Very possible it could come in the trial. I think there'll be phone calls we haven't heard. I know of at least one phone call that will probably come as evidence that is gut-wrenching. And there will be other recordings that probably come out, and videos too, probably. Jody, in our community of Rexburg, we sometimes hear that we have only heard a small portion of what's happened in this case. Do you think more charges will come for key players? I don't think there'll be any more charges for Lori or for Chad. I think that we're sealed on that. The indictment is sealed on that. And I don't know. I think if there were other people that are going to be charged, it's always a possibility, I guess you could say. And they could, the prosecutors and the police could use it as a little bit of leverage. I'm not saying they're doing that in this case, but they could use it to say, hey, if you testify, we know you lied to us here. You testify, you know how it works. So I don't know about that. All right, I think that's it for the questions. If you got any more, file them in there, but I think we will call that a night. So I just want to thank you all again for watching and following. And one other question somebody asked me. They said, how do I find your updates on when I'm in court? This person was not particularly tech savvy. So I'm going to show you right where you can find them. If you go to eastidahonews.com, over here, Daybell trial complete coverage. If you click on this, here's what we have. The digest. That is what I'm doing every day in court. and the other things. So day 5, this was Friday. You can click on there, and if you scroll down, here's my live updates. 10:21. So I posted right when we got the audio and I was able to process it, I posted it. So every day I'm doing this. And if you go to our main page, you'll see it. There's the interview with Keith. There's day 4, day 3, day 2, day 1. That is the daily digest. This is when we get the audio of the hearings. So you can go in every night if you want, or every morning. There's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And that's how it'll be. We'll put them on there. You click on there. You can listen to the audio. Frequently asked questions. I know a lot of you have questions that you can go on and read. The timeline, this is a very, very extensive timeline that we worked for a long time to put together. And then videos. This is all of the videos from the case. We have over 200 videos on there, starting back to the very first interview 3 years ago with Sheriff Humphreys in his office. And then what happens when deputies responded to Tammy Daybell, and the very first news conference where they offered, Larry and Kay offered a $20,000 reward. And then this is where you can sign up for our newsletter. Every night at 8 or 9 o'clock, we send out a newsletter with the very latest on Daybell. So if you click on that, that's how you can stay informed. And again, it's right there on our main page. You can also read about ducks if you want, or some other news of the day. But we've got it all there. Okay, tomorrow, opening statements, witnesses. I'll try to break in and do a live shot around noon, let you know what happened in the morning. But I'll be back here 7:30. Tune in if you're interested, and come with your questions, and hopefully I can answer them. And I wish you all a very good new week as we enter the second week of the trial for Lori Vallow Daybell.